Take that, take that, take that. Take that, take that, take that. Listen, Sean Diddy Combs, did he just get acquitted? Did he just get acquitted? Well, depending on who you ask, yep. And there are people really upset about it. So jury deliberations have happened, and facing 5 counts, Sean Diddy Combs, at least in the criminal reality. There's a civil reality that's totally different. But in the criminal side, Sean Diddy Combs was facing 5 counts, and the jury came back and said that he was guilty of 2 of the 5. And the 3 that he was not guilty of were the ones that were the most severe. So a lot of people, legal analysts, lawyers, and people are essentially saying this was a huge win for Diddy. Let's look at this really quickly. Let's make sure we see what's going on here so we know what we're doing right now. Here's where we're at. Let me show you this. All right. So Diddy was charged with 5 federal accounts: racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and multiple counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The most serious charge, racketeering and sex trafficking, carry potential sentences of up to life in prison and a mandatory minimum of 15 years respectively, right? So let me explain what man-mins are, all right? So a mandatory minimum is within the law. States have them too. They have them, some people call them min-mans or man-mins, all right? A mandatory minimum means no matter what you get charged, you have to serve at least this minimum. Now, if you're a criminal, a mandatory minimum is the worst thing ever, because what it does is it takes the power out of the judge's hand in sentencing. The sentencing is already predetermined, right? So Diddy was facing a couple charges that he would have got the racketeering and sex trafficking, 15-year minimum. So let's just say they said, hey, look, we really think this guy's gotten a bad deal, but said the jury convicted him, he was doing 15 years minimum. That's the least he would do. That's a crazy joint, right? So he had those. All right, here's what happened. So on July 2nd, today, Diddy was acquitted of the most severe charges: racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. He was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. And so here's what it is. Each prostitution case carries a maximum sentence of 10 years for a possible total of 10 to 20 years. However, legal experts, let me put this on the side, federal sentencing guidelines indicate that Diddy is likely to receive a much lighter sentence, potentially 15 to 21 months, due to the nature of the convictions and his lack of a conviction on the most serious charges. All right. Now, Diddy has been denied bail, so he will stay in jail. They were trying to get him out today, rightly so. He will stay in jail at least through October. This might actually work in his favor, because what his lawyers are going to try to shoot for is time served. They're going to be like, look, Your Honor, he's been in there for almost a year, or I don't know how long it will be from the time served, right? How many people who he had, because this is what we have to realize, right? He's famous and we've heard things about him for a long time. But in terms of the legality, Diddy's not been charged with anything. I mean, with the gun charge back in the day at the shootout, Sean took that beef for him when he was dating J-Lo. Like, he hasn't really had any criminal charges. So on one level, this decision for Diddy is a win-win, all right? Now, he does have 70 civil suits filed. I don't know how much money he has. And I'm sure that Cassie is glad that when she first exposed him, that he settled within 12 hours with like 30 million. She got her money, because 70 suits, I don't think that he'll lose all of them, but the civil court system is way different than the legal criminal court system, right? That's the issue. With that being said, how do you process this if you're a believer? Like, as a Christian, how do I process this whole thing? I've been hearing about Diddy for a long time. When I was in the world trying to get a record deal, I remember in January of 1997, I sat in what I thought was at that time, the most amazing meeting for my hope of being a recording artist, getting a record deal. I was out of DC. We sat in Connecticut Avenue. It was me, one of the dudes from my hood, his uncle, who was the photographer for Michael Jackson on two of his album covers. I had multiple A&Rs in the room, from Uptown MCA Records, all this. Washington Post had someone that was there writing an article, and the lady I was talking to was an entertainment lawyer for Bad Boy and Def Jam, and she said, get your bio together, and Robert, who was the photographer, is going to take your bio. He was one that did Michael Jackson's album covers, two of them. He's going to take your bio. We're going to get you a deal. She said, you guys are the most talented. You're the most talented person I've ever heard come out of Washington, D.C. Well, I left that meeting in January of 1997 thinking I'm going to be famous. Like, this is it. Everything that I've worked for, everything, all the going to the studio, all the rapping, I just got affirmed by people in the industry who said, wow, this is the best music. This is competing with New York music. I'm not lying to you now. I have no reason to lie to you. So this is 1997. This is what happened. Shortly after that, 2 months later, I was in a broad day shootout. A couple months later, with a rival gang, facing 43 years in prison, and that killed the dream. Because I was like, they didn't know if I was going to get locked up. But from that meeting, they connected me with the VP of marketing, BET. I cannot remember her name. She was a cool lady. She used to live up there, uptown, on a big brownstone, and on Spring Street in Northwest DC. She used to tell me all this stuff. She would say, like, listen, you better be careful of the entertainment. She was the first one to tell me that it was very gay-centric. She was putting me hip. She was inviting me to all these BET events. I remember when Will Smith dropped Independence Day. I think that was 97, around then. I got invited to BET Soundstage. Me and two of my homies, we was in that joint. We was street dudes at this point. We was in that joint, smacked, high as I don't know what. We was in that joint. I kid you not, I remember because I was standing right next to Will Smith, and it was clear we were street dudes. And he would be talking, and he'd be looking over at us kind of like, hey, he felt safe. This is BET Soundstage. He had security, but we were right there. She was bringing me in, and I heard all this stuff about Diddy and all of it, and it really turned me off because one of the entertainment lawyer at the time was working for Bad Boy and Def Jam, and I just thought, man, that's a crazy world. But the Lord, I didn't get a chance to pursue it because I ended up getting locked up and having to go through a whole different thing, which the Lord redeemed by me being able to rap and make music for Him, for His glory. It wasn't what I thought, but it turned out better than what I had hoped. Having said that, I've seen this stuff for a long time. Right? I've seen this stuff and heard about Diddy for a long time. And I know that some people, after hearing that he got acquitted of these charges, are really upset. I watched a lady who's a legal analyst, an expert, give on some legal YouTube channel. She was explaining what happened, why they probably let him go, and how disappointed she was. I watched Megyn Kelly basically say, cuss it, he's this, he's that, and if he gets out, I'm going to make it my personal mission to destroy him. I believe all the things about him, all this stuff. They dismissed Cassie. So you're going to hear all about this in the next day or two. As a believer, let me just tell you how I'm processing this. It may or may not be helpful, and it's not like you need me to tell you that, but I'm allowed to say what I want. It's YouTube, and it's my channel, and some of you would do good to remember that. No one's forcing you to watch the channel. People be offended. I tell you what, I don't know what it is in this modern day and age. People just like, if they disagree with you, they're just offended. Like, okay, sorry. But anyway, as a believer, this is the thing we have to realize. Every person, there's a reality to criminal charges. Here's the reality of criminal charges, no matter what your justice system is. Every single person has two sides of them. There's a legal and then there's an internal, right? So on the legal side, many people will commit crimes from the legal standpoint. If you look at this thing and you put it under legal scrutiny, this would technically be a crime of which you could go to prison for or spend some jail time with. A lot of people do that and don't even know it. You just do it because it's, stealing something from your job is theft under 300. It's a misdemeanor charge. Stealing something over $200 is a felony. So let's say you got to do something, and you take the printer. You take the printer, or you take a computer from your job because you needed to work and you didn't ask them, but you're just like, hey, I'll bring it back. That technically could be stealing. That's felony theft, right? All of us do things from a legal perspective, and not everyone pays the penalty for their legal charges. That's the reality, right? So there are going to be things that you've done or other people have done legally that will not face any penalty. Some people won't even face any charges because it just doesn't happen that way, right? And then there are going to be times when people are given charges and get the book thrown at them, and they get all of this, right? The legal system is they try to do as best as they can, at least that's what they say, but there's going to be loopholes in that. There are going to be things. So if Diddy is guilty of sex trafficking, the jury did not. And keep in mind, I don't know who was on the jury, but like, you have to remember who Diddy is. Like, Diddy is responsible, humanly speaking, for a good bit of the musical palette of black urban culture in the 1990s and up into the 2000s. He is large, not single-handedly, but he is one of the major players of that. You figure starting with Mary J. Blige, he was connected with, that was Jodeci, then he had Craig Mack, and then Biggie, and then, then he had his own little entourage, but then you had it like Total, 112, Faith Evans was with him, you had the Lox was with him for a little bit of time, Lil' Kim was connected to him. Like, a lot of the 90s, for many of us who grew up in urban culture, was his musical print, his production team, all of that stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of the jurors saw him and thought, man, that guy shaped my childhood. That guy made music that I loved and danced to in the 90s into the 2000s. So it's going to be hard for some people to even think that, like, nah, they're just railroading him. And then you got the whole race thing. Oh, he's a black man that they're just trying to go after. Man, the black people, the people that testified were black, right? So the reality is from the legal standpoint, a lot of us held up to legal scrutiny would face charges and are not going to see them. So it's possible that Diddy it's possible that he's gotten away with something legally that he should have gotten charged with. I have no idea what I saw. Cassie's reaction. I didn't look at it. We're going to hear about this for a couple of days, and then you know what? Then we're going to go back to whatever else we were doing. No one's going to care about this until the trial in October. Legally speaking, the reality of criminal charges is that not everyone pays a penalty for those charges. That's just a reality. But there's another thing we have to process is eternally speaking. Eternally speaking, there is no one, absolutely no one is getting away with anything. Let me explain what I mean. In Revelation 20, this is the reality for every person, right? Christian or non-Christian, believer or not believer. This is the courtroom. See, Diddy may get spared in this legal courtroom, in this criminal courtroom. He may get hit in the civil courtroom, but he may not do as much prison time as people initially thought. When we all heard all the charges, we thought that man is going to get buried under the prison, but he may not. But there's a courtroom that everyone, because there's a lot of people, let's be clear, there are a lot of people who commit criminal charges that never go to a courtroom. You think about all the things like trafficking and different things that we've heard people do to other people. As we speak right now, someone is unaliving someone. Someone is physically assaulting someone. Someone's robbing a bank right now. Someone's stealing someone. Someone's taking someone's life. Someone's touching someone's children. Someone's touching someone's. As we speak, every second something is happening that is repulsive, that will never, ever see the light of criminal court. But this courtroom, this is an eternal courtroom. And this courtroom is one that everyone will go to. And here's what it says. Then I saw a great white throne, and him who was seated on it from his presence, and earth and sky fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Then another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged, this is legal courtroom, judged by what was written in the books, and according to what they had done. And the sea gave up the dead who were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one of them, according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Here's the reality. Here's the reality. And again, I don't know. I'm not presuming on Diddy's guilt or innocence. I really don't care in the grand scheme because I don't know. I have nothing. I don't know. But here's the reality. This passage that's over here I guess it's to your left. It's to my right, but it may be to your left. All right. This passage right here is a courtroom scene. And only three things will happen in that courtroom. It will be evidence, conviction, and sentencing. That's it. Evidence, conviction, and sentencing. Here's what that courtroom will not have. Witnesses with competing testimony. That it won't have a jury there that can be bought or swayed or think like, hey man, this person really affected my life. That courtroom doesn't have that. It has one judge. It has evidence that's undisputable. Undisputable evidence. This is what you did. It's there. There is no doctor tape. There is no, well, the audio's not good, well, the picture's a little bit blurry, a little pixely. There's none of that. The books are opened. The evidence against your life is there. And every conviction will be guilty. Guilty. Everyone. Whether you've gone to a courtroom on this earth or not, whether you beat charges or not, there is only one way to be acquitted in this courtroom. The sentencing, right, will either be eternal without God or forgiveness because Jesus' blood covered you. All sin will be punished. Every crime that has never seen a courtroom will see the courtroom, the great courtroom. So if Diddy was acquitted and he did do all these things that they said and he's gotten away, he has not, unless he really puts his faith in the Lord. He's not getting away with anything. And this is what all people don't realize. Even in the Bible, demons, when they saw Jesus coming, they would run up and be like, what have you to do with us, Jesus? Have you come to torment us before the appointed time? Even they understand that there's going to come a time when the party's over for us. We're going to experience the wrath. So they're having their fun now because they know when it's the appointed time, it's a wrap. They know that there's a time that is appointed. And they almost sound like they know that. If you look at that Mark 5, if you look at some of those things, you think like, I think it's Mark 5, where he goes to Gennesaret. They're like, have you come to us before the appointed time? They almost sound like they know that when the appointed time is and why are you here early? All of us, every single one of us, you watching live, watching later, whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. Truth does not care if we agree or disagree. It's true because God says it's true. There is a courtroom that everyone will enter at some point. And in that courtroom, all the evidence against you will be true. You will not be able to say, I didn't do that. You are guilty as charged. But the sentencing will determine what happens. If you have faith in Jesus Christ, then he is taking the punishment. He's already taken the punishment on the cross. He has taken the penalty for you. You are not guilty in the sense that you're not going to be punished for what you deserve. You will be eternally without. If you are not a believer in Jesus, doesn't matter if you like this or not. You can get offended if you want. I get it. It doesn't change. I'm not going to go off YouTube because you unfollow or don't like what I'm saying. I get it. For those who have those kinds of comments, that's fine. But if you're not a believer, you're going the court. All the sins that you've committed that never make the light of day in the courtroom, all of us, you're going to be guilty as charged, and the sentencing will be brutal because it will be forever lasting. So I'm not really worried about whether Diddy is acquitted wrongly or not, because there is no justice. Our justice system is just a logical justice system. It's just a framework that Romans 13 says God put in place so that there was a system in place that represented his character, justice and righteousness and those things, right? I get that. But the courtroom that we're all headed for in Revelation 20, 11 through 15, it's just three things: evidence, conviction, sentencing. You will only get an acquittal. You will not get an acquittal because God is not certain. He's confused. The evidence, some of it is believable, some of it isn't. Because you were so likable, I was so likable. The only acquittal will be you put your faith in Jesus and then you tried to live according to what he said. That's it. Unless you're a thief on the cross and you have a deathbed conversion. For people to think, no, that's works. You don't live. No. Obedience is not work. Works to earn salvation is different than works because of salvation. This is the point that James is making. And Paul makes it in Romans 6. It's there. That's it. So I'm not going to worry about Diddy. You're going to see a lot of people outraged. How could he? As if like, man, okay, maybe you didn't commit the sins that he committed, but you're going to court too. Everyone that's asbestos on court TV will be in court eternity. And we're all going to be guilty, but we're all going to be sentenced differently. And some will be with God forever and some will be without him. I don't know where Diddy will be. I hope he genuinely repents to follow the Lord. If he celebrates because he got out and beat the trial, you didn't beat nothing, fam. Because there's one more courtroom where the bailiff, the prosecution, and the evidence is irrefutable. Guilty is every plea bar, it's every plea. Sentencing is determined by the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. But what do I know? Some people are offended. I'm not. We'll see what happens. Because whatever justice is not served here, it will be served in eternity. I just hope none of us have to face it. Because I'd much rather sit in a prison on earth than sit in God's eternal prison. But what do I know? See you.